In today's lecture, we're going to talk about sprites. What are sprites and how do you use them in Pygame? Well, before we do that, let's go back in time. I want you to come back in time with me, and I want to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which was Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy, or Game Boy Color. Well, here I'm playing it in an emulator because I don't have my Game Boy with me, and this game, when I was 11 years old or so, and I got this game, it was just the coolest thing in the whole world. And what made it cool was, well, here's Red, you're the hero of the game, and he's Red, but then you have a Pikachu that follows you around, and this was just insane back then, that Pikachu walked everywhere with you. It was so cool, and you could talk to Pikachu, and you see he would give little expressions and things, and it was just crazy. Well, how does this relate to sprites, and how does this relate to Pygame? Well, sprites are these pictures you see on the screen. Here's the sprite for Pikachu, and here's the sprite for Red, and we're going to see how do you code with sprites in Pygame. To help us understand sprites today, I've written a little bit of code. It's here on GitHub, and I'll give you a link to it. You can download it by clicking the green button here and go to Download Zip. That's going to download it to my Downloads folder, but I think I prefer to have it on my desktop, so I'm going to come to my Downloads, and I'm just going to copy this over to my desktop. But you can leave it wherever you want. Then on my desktop, I'm going to extract it. We come back to GitHub, and we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that I recorded a little video of what this code does. And if you look real close, you'll see that there is Pikachu, the real Pikachu from the Game Boy video game, and there he is walking around the screen. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use Pygame to recreate this walking Pikachu from Game Boy. Before we move on, let's get the definition clear. What is a sprite? A sprite is a 2D image in a video game. For example, in Super Mario Bros., Mario is a sprite. The cloud is a sprite. The squares here are sprites. Sprites are 2D images in your video game. Now, one sprite is not very useful. You need different sprites to make the game look like an animation. The way sprites work are pretty much like a flipbook. You take a whole bunch of 2D pictures, and if you play them one after another, it looks like an animation. Today, we're going to talk about animating sprites in your video games. As you saw in this video here, we're going to be animating Pikachu. Well, where did I get these Pikachu images? It just so happens that some very smart person has hacked the Pokemon code from the Game Boy days, and all of the code for Pokemon is here online. And we could talk about this another time because this is amazing. But one thing that this person found was the images for Pikachu. I'll give you a link to this as well. And if you scroll through here, you're going to see that there is Pikachu. If you look at Pikachu, you're going to see that there's a few different images. Now, we already downloaded this. In fact, I have these images. I stole them from here, and I put them here in our code that we're going to use today in the sprites folder. I downloaded and extracted this to my desktop, and it's in Follow Me Pikachu. And inside here, there's the sprites folder, and here is the Pikachu sprite. As you can see, the Pikachu sprite is just a whole bunch of 2D images. Here's Pikachu facing you. Here's Pikachu facing away from you. Pikachu facing left. This is Pikachu walking towards you. You see the foot there sticking out. That's Pikachu walking. Here's Pikachu walking away. There's the foot sticking out. And here's Pikachu walking to the left. You can see the two little feet there on the bottom are moving. What we're looking at here is a sprite sheet. Very often when you're working with 2D video games, in Pygame, or on Game Boy, or on any platform, very often you glue all of the sprites together in one sheet. So now you know that a sprite is a 2D image in your game, and you know that we're going to play the sprites by kind of like a flipbook, by playing multiple images. Let's take a look at that in code. So I'm going to use VS Code today, but of course, use your favorite editor. I'm going to open some files here. Now, what we're interested in is, remember, on my desktop, I downloaded this zip and extracted it. So wherever you extracted it, that's where you're going to get the files. I'm going to open that, open this, and then inside this code that you downloaded, there's 3 files of interest. One is direction, one is main, and the other one is Pikachu. So let's open these 3. Now, when you open these, depending on how your VS Code is configured, you might get some error messages. Like here, it's yelling at me about Pygame. You can see here that it's highlighted yellow. And if I hover over it, you see that it has a problem with something called Pylance. Now, I don't know if you've installed Pylance or not. This is the problem with these great programs like VS Code, is that they're a little complicated, and it's yelling at us now about something. This is why sometimes I prefer to use something a little less sophisticated like Sublime, because Sublime won't give you so many complicated error messages. But once you learn to read these error messages in VS Code, it's very, very useful. I'm going to tell you for now, these error messages don't matter. Let's just run the game and then we'll address those. To run the game, of course, we're going to run the main.py file. But what we'll do is we'll run the game and then we'll come back around and we'll talk about these error messages. I'm going to go to my terminal and I'll remember that I extracted this onto my desktop. So I'm going to go to my desktop. Inside there, there's a folder called Follow Me Pikachu-Master. I'll open that one. Then if I type dir or ls on your Mac, you'll see that there's another folder inside called Follow Me Pikachu-Master. So I'll go inside that one. Can I zoom that in? No. Okay. So I'm going to go inside there, Follow Me Pikachu-Master. And then we take a look in there. And now you'll see that we have the main, direction, and Pikachu. We're going to want to run the main file, main.py. And look at this. There we have Pikachu, just like in the Game Boy game. Now, the Pikachu moves around. If you look in here, you see that this is programmed to use WASD to move Pikachu around. So if you use the WASD keys, you're going to see that you got Pikachu walking around just like the Game Boy days. Isn't that amazing? In Pygame, we've recreated the walking Pikachu from the 1999 game, Pokemon Yellow. That's so cool. Now, before we start talking about this code more, I want to address these error messages on the screen. The issue here for me, and I can see if I hover over one of the error messages, it says here a problem with Pylance. Now, you may not have this issue. You might not. It depends on your computer configuration. This has something to do with Pylance, and I understand the error, but to explain it in detail is going to take some time. I can come here to my extensions in VS Code. Of course, this does not apply to Sublime. So if you're on Sublime, this does not apply to you. But in VS Code, here there's the Pylance extension. I see it at the top, but if you don't, you might search for Pylance. And there it is, Pylance. And if I click on that, I can disable it because it's giving me these annoying messages that are actually wrong. The code works fine. We'll restart the extensions after disabling it. And then if I come back to the program, you see no more error messages. That Pylance tool is very useful, and it's giving us useful error messages, but it's just going to confuse what's happening here. The code works, and we don't need Pylance to tell us it doesn't, because it definitely does.